Uvalde, AR-15. Buffalo, AR-15. Boulder, AR-15. Orlando, AR-15. Parkland, AR-15. Las Vegas, AR-15. Aurora, Colorado, AR-15. Sandy Hook, AR-15. Waffle House, AR-15. San Bernardino, AR-15. Midland, Odessa, AR-15. Poway Synagogue, AR-15. Sutherland Springs, AR-15. Tree of Life Synagogue, AR-15. And Willie, it's, I guess, if you're 18,
yeah.
What were you just telling me about Texas?
Well, anywhere in the country, if you're 21 years old, you can buy a handgun.
Yeah.
18 to buy an AR-15. So the original idea with long guns and rifles was 18, you go out hunting, all those things. But AR-15 was looped into the long gun category. They are long guns. But the question is, why do you have to be 21 to purchase a handgun, but only 18 to purchase an AR-15?
And your answer?
Well, my theory is that handguns are cheaper. So
the money.
You gotta make things available that sell, right, Joe?
They make money.
Greed.
They make the most money off the AR-15s.
If you have to have an ID that shows your age to get a drink,
a beer,
and
Robitussin,
right,
actually.
or even a Robitussin, why is it that when you something like this that is worse than what police have in terms of the destruction that it causes, that may have caused some police officers to think twice before they walked into a school? Maybe not in this case. I'm just saying, when you hear an AR-15 going off, possibly a guy with two, what are you going to do
it's a weapon
with your little gun?
Designed for war. A weapon, as we keep saying, more deadly.
You don't need a background check?
Than the weapons that our soldiers and Marines carried in Vietnam. It's being right now the host of MSNBC's Politics Nation, president of the National Action Network, Reverend Al Sharpton. Rev, you're at the White House. Tell us about it.
Well, yesterday was the second anniversary of the murder of George Floyd. And as everyone knows, the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act did not get to the Senate. The Republicans refused to deal with the qualified immunity. So we had been putting pressure that we be in the civil rights community and the families on the president to do what he could by executive order. On yesterday, he did. On the anniversary, he had the Floyd family there, Breonna Taylor's mother was there, and other families, and he signed an executive order that says there must be a directory now on policing where no policeman's record is not public, so you can't go from one county to another and we don't know you had done abuse. He did it on dealing with chokeholds and compression, which is what killed Eric Garner, which was what killed the George Floyd. Compression, he did an executive order against. And he did a one in terms of cameras, body cameras. You can't turn them off. You must have them on. All of this for federal officers. It is a very good step. He could not go into qualified immunity as president, but he did all that he could as president in our view, even though we still say it's a great first step. The president went to the boundaries, but the Senate still must make it law. We must remember that the Emancipation Proclamation was an executive order. People don't understand. That was not the law. It was an executive order. It did not become illegal until we had the 13th Amendment. And I feel that we should use what President Biden signed yesterday to continue to put pressure and make a midterm election issue out of, if the president can go with the executive order, we need this George Floyd bill on policing.
And by the way, Mike, again, this is just something else dead in the Senate. Well, Senate has effectively stopped anything from happening this year. Well, and people hide behind the filibuster.
You know, I think, you know, your friend, the president, I think he realizes now the Senate is not the Senate that he once knew and participated in, that it's different. The funny thing is, last night, early this morning, I had one of those foggy, half asleep, half awake dreams. And this president of the United States, Joseph R. Biden, a man who wears his wounds well, he's a wounded person. He knows what it's like to be damaged, to be hurt, to suffer loss. In this dream that I had, he decided, as he has, to go to Texas to make 2 stops. One stop was going to be, obviously, Uvalde. The second stop, he went to Houston in this dream. And he went to the NRA convention. And he told them, I haven't come for your guns. I've come for your conscience. And I've come for common sense. Because my instinct is, and perhaps it's yours, you spent some time with him yesterday, he is incredibly angry about what has happened in the past month, the past years, with regard to weapons in this country.
No, I did sense that there was a real anger, and we talked briefly, he and a few of us after the ceremony, and I really felt that he is angry. He had just come back from Asia. The week before he went to Buffalo, where I'm on my way now to do 2 more funerals.
Rev.
And now he's coming.
You're going back
incredible.
to do funerals as we have another mass shooting
AR-15
in Texas, another AR-15 shooting.
And that's funerals of Miss Talley and Miss Whitfield Saturday and Friday and Saturday. So this is not academic. We're talking about real lives. He had, and this shows what you talk about, his pain going to his anger. He, at the end of signing the executive order, he had me and Attorney Ben Crump bring up Gianna, George Floyd's little daughter, who, when he met with her, and I was in the room when he was running for president, and he quoted her often saying, she looked at him and said, my dad's going to change the world. He gave her the pen, he signed the executive order in her dad's name and let her sit in the presidential chair. That's him relating. But the anger was under that. He's looking at a victim's daughter. He's thinking about him between Buffalo and going to Texas. And these people are just making money off of tearing down this country. I think he is legitimately angry. He and I don't agree on some things, but he drove the ball yesterday on policing, which was not easy. Because a lot of police would be against some of the things, certainly some of the things that we've been pushing for, and that's in that executive order. But I think he's very angry about this gun situation. And I don't know about your dream, but I think he certainly should appeal to the NRA. And I think people ought to deal with whoever shows up at the NRA. In this climate between Buffalo and what's going on in Texas, to even have an NRA convention is an insult to the intelligence of this country.
It really is.